Hello, dear students. I hope you're all safe, you're all doing well. In this lecture, we will learn about the cultural and educational rights that are available to all the people in our country. Dear students, you must understand that Article 21 capital A, right to education, is definitely the torchbearer of the right to education, education related rights in India, but that is of a secular character. This is it's not exactly non-secular, it's not related to religion, but it has this cultural and educational right talks about has a strong local and cultural influence. So right to education itself is affected under Article 21 capital A and 21. These are a little of more of a specific cultural traditional nature. Article 29 and 30, Article 29 talking about the protection of the interests of minorities and protection of minorities, and Article 30 that allows these minorities to establish and administer educational institutions. This is what we will cover in this article. Article 29 talks about the protection of minorities, and Article 29 clause 1 says that Indian citizens can conserve their script, language and culture if they are distinct in nature. So the Meitei language and the Meitei script in Manipur, the Dogri language in Jammu, Gujarati language in Gujarat, it's all distinct. Kannada, all four South Indian languages, Kannada, Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, of course, but also the languages that are spoken in a very local manner, like Tulu language, which is spoken in coastal Karnataka, Konkani, which is spoken in Goa and in some parts of Maharashtra and Karnataka, and also in some very small pockets of Kerala and in some very small pockets of Tamil Nadu. See, these are all places where languages, this is not a very famous language, this is not very commonly, not too many people speak, like Hindi, many people speak, Kannada, many people speak. But these Konkani, Tulu, Biari, these are all very small languages that very few people speak. And these people have the right to protect their culture, to protect their script, to protect the language. It is a right that is given to them. You must be aware of the CAA, Citizenship Amendment Act, and a lot of protests have happened. You must understand that the protests in other parts of the country and protests in Assam are very different. The people of Assam, the Assamese people, are protesting because they are worried that their language and their culture will be affected. People, different refugees will end up in Assam, and Assamese speaking population of Assam will become minority. The present CM of Assam, Mr. Sarbananda Sonowal, had filed a case. PIL. Sarbananda Sonowal versus Union of India, 2005. Supreme Court recognized the right of the people to protest against the influx of illegal migrants. Supreme Court said illegal migrants, they are coming to a state and the people of the state are protesting. Why are they protesting? They're protesting to protect their language, to protect their culture, and this is covered. This can be brought under the protection of Article 29(1). Sarbananda Sonowal versus Union of India. The people's right to protect their language and culture. The right to protest against illegal migration, to protect their language and culture and their script is recognized as a right under Article 29 clause 1. And Article 29 clause 1 extends to all sections with a distinct language. So just because, like say for example in Karnataka, Hindi is spoken by nearly 40% of the country, but the language of Karnataka is Kannada. So Kannadigas have the right to protect their language, but Hindi speakers in Karnataka have a right to protect their language. So just because Hindi is such a large number, spoken in such a large number, it doesn't mean they don't have a right. At the same time, nearly 6 crore people say that their mother tongue is Kannada. 6 crore people. There are countries that have half that population. Like Australia has 4 or 5 crore population or something like that. Karnataka has more people than many countries in the world. That doesn't mean that they don't have a right to protect their language. The smallest of person, 1 person, 2 people, 10 people speaking language. At the same time, 6 crore, 7 crore, 200 crore, whatever might be the case. Numbers don't affect. Every group has the right to protect their language. This is something that is understood. Article 29 clause 1 and Article 30 clause 1. Article 29 clause 1 about conservation of script. Article 30 clause 1 talks about establishing educational institution. Supreme Court has drawn the distinction. To protect your language and culture under Article 29 Clause 1, you don't need to establish a school. And at the same time, to establish a school, you don't necessarily need to have a separate language. How is that? So we will learn very soon. How is that? We will come very soon. Article 29 clause 2 is a non-discrimination clause. It says on the basis of religion, on the basis of race, on the basis of caste, on the basis of language, or any of them. So on the basis of religion, on the basis of race, on the basis of caste, on the basis of language, or any of them, you cannot stop someone from taking admission in any state-run, state-owned or state-aided school. So I want to go to a Kendriya Vidyalaya. I want to go to a government school. I want to go to a government aided school. They tell me that based on my language, I am a Malayalam speaker, so I cannot go to Karnataka government school. Not allowed. They cannot say that. I am a Kannada speaker. I want to go to Kendriya Vidyalaya. They cannot say no, no, no. Only Hindi speakers can come. No, that is not allowed. You are a Muslim. You will not be allowed to the school. No. You are a Hindu. You will not be allowed to the school. No. Government is giving you money. How can you say no to me? This right is provided to me by Article 29 Clause 2. Article 29 Clause 2 says you will not be discriminated on the basis of your religion, on the basis of your race, on the basis of your caste, on the basis of your language. This is again very similar to Article 15 Clause 1. 15 Clause 1 does not include language but includes many other things. Article 29 Clause 2 is not as wide as Article 15 Clause 1, but it's slightly includes language which is not mentioned in Article 15.1. So please read Article 15.1 and compare it with 29.2. In the case of St. Stephen's College versus University of Delhi or Delhi University, 1992 case, the court was very clear. You can be a minority institution. St. Stephen's College, run by Christians, 2% of India, obviously minority. Court clearly said that a minority institution, which is aided by the government, cannot restrict itself to their own religion. So St. Stephen's College, run by a Christian group, gets money from Delhi government, gets money from Delhi University, which again gets money from Union of India. How can they say that we will run the college only for Christians? That is not allowed. 50% you can reserve for Christians. 50% you can reserve for Christians. But more than 50% you cannot. At least the remaining 50 should come from a general population. This decision was upheld in 2002. 11 judge bench decision. 11 judge bench decision in 2002 said that we uphold the decision. A minority institution that is aided by the government, a minority institution that is aided by the government cannot claim that they are a minority institution and therefore they will only have their own university, their own community. No. Even this 50% is a very hard and fast number. Whether it's 50, whether it's 40, this is a decision that the state will fix. But 100% for that own community is not allowed, especially particularly when it is maintained by the government, when it is aided by the government. Now, what does Article 30 say? Article 30 says that minorities have the right to establish, administer educational institutions. So what does 30 clause 1 say? 30 clause 1 says that religious and linguistic minority, that is, a minority decided on the basis of their religion and minority decided on the basis of their language, can establish an educational institution. The minority again is not a defined term. The Supreme Court has said that anyone whose numbers are less than 50% of the population can claim themselves to be a minority. So there are more Kannada speakers in India than there are Malayalam speakers, because the population of total Malayali population is about 4 crores or something like that, and total Kannada speaking population is about 4.5, 5 crores. But a Malayali, so if a Kannadiga is there in Kerala, they can become a linguistic minority. So Kerala cannot say that no, there are more uh, Kannadigas in India than there are Malayalis. That is why we will not give you minority status. No, but there are more Kannadigas in Karnataka, not in Kerala. Similarly, a Malayali can come to Kerala, Karnataka and say that they are a minority institution. That is allowed. However, there is a catch. There are certain areas in India. So Hinduism is on the basis of religion. We can say that Hindus are the majority in India. Nearly 80% of the population is Hindu. But there are some locations in India, like Jammu and Kashmir. Jammu and Kashmir has less than 50% Hindus. There are certain districts in Uttar Pradesh. There are certain districts in Kerala. There are certain places in the northeast where there are the population of Hindus is less than 50%. A Hindu cannot say that they are a minority in that place. So let me take an example of the district of Malappuram. Malappuram district has more than less than 50% Hindus. Less than 50% of Malappuram district is Hindus. There are certain places in Uttar Pradesh also where less than 50% of the population is Hindu. According to the Supreme Court, Hindus cannot say that in Malappuram district their population is a minority, and that is why they can establish a Hindu school because they are a minority. No, in Jammu and Kashmir, less than 50% of the population is Hindu. Hindus of Jammu and Kashmir cannot say that they are a minority. But at the same time, the Muslims of Malappuram, the Muslims of Jammu and Kashmir, the Muslims of certain districts in Uttar Pradesh cannot claim minority status in that district. You are a minority in a place where there are only 10% Muslims. But you are not a minority in Jammu and Kashmir because your population is more than 50%. So overall in India, it's Muslims form about 15 to 16, 14% of the population. So 14% of India is Muslim. So on a pan-India level, Muslim is minority. But in Kashmir, more than 50% are Muslims. Then how can you say? So for a state law, Kashmir is making a law, Jammu and Kashmir is making a law. For that law, Muslims cannot claim minority status. But on a national level, Right to Education Act is a central legislation made nationally. Even in Jammu and Kashmir, Muslims can say that they are minority for as long as it is a national level act. For a state level act in Jammu and Kashmir, Muslims cannot claim minority status. But whether it is national level, whether it is state level, Hindus cannot claim minority status anywhere. Nowhere in India can a Hindu claim minority status. Of course, Jains, Lingayats, Veerachaivas, Sikhs, Buddhists, all these people fall within the definition of Hinduism for the purposes of defining Hinduism, for the purpose of right to religion. In the earlier last lecture, we learnt about the right to religion. In that, all these people come within the same bracket. In family law, Hindu Marriage Act covers Sikhs, it covers Arya Samajis, it covers Lingayats, it covers Jains. But for the purpose of Article 30, Lingayats are a separate religious minority. Sikhs are a separate religious minority. Jains are a separate religious minority. This minority status has been given for the purpose of Article 30. But overall, Hindu Marriage Act will still apply. Right to religion, Article 25 to 28 will still apply. And all these Punjabis, Sikhs, sorry, and Buddhists, all these people will fall within Hinduism. But for the purpose of Article 30, they can claim to be a minority. However, Hindus cannot go to any part of India and say that they are a minority because national level they are majority. So just because in one district they are minority, they cannot claim minority status. But at the same time, the majority religion of that district, provided they are not Hindu, cannot claim minority status either. So in Jammu and Kashmir, for the purposes of a Jammu and Kashmir state law, a Hindu cannot claim minority status because on a national level a Hindu is majority. But at the same time, a Muslim also cannot claim minority because in that state they are a minority. In that state they are a majority. You must understand that this right under Article 30 is a choice. You cannot force someone to establish a school. You cannot say that you Anglo-Indians are minorities, so open your own school. No. I have the right to establish. If I want to, I can. If I don't want to, I won't establish. That brings me to the second point. It is establish and administer. So it is not as if someone will establish and someone else will administer. So a Hindu establishes a school, a Muslim is running it so that it becomes a Muslim minority institution. No. Muslims should have established it and Muslims should be administering it. So these two words have to be read in conjunction. They have to be read together. Establish and administer. The right is to establish and administer. Even scheduled caste and scheduled tribe reservations don't apply to these minority schools, provided they don't receive aid. So if you are not even receiving 1 rupee from the government, if you don't even receive 1 rupee as aid from the government, then you don't need to apply any reservations, because you can protect your own religious minority. You can teach them, you can educate them about your culture, you can educate them about your language, you can educate them about your religion. If earlier, compulsory education of the local language in a minority school was held to be unconstitutional because it violated Article 30 Clause 1. That is, however, not the case. So, in English medium students parents association, English medium students parents association versus state of Karnataka, 1998 judgment. In a 1998 judgment affecting the state of Karnataka, the Supreme Court said, yes, initially we thought that teaching Kannada in a minority school, so there is an Urdu school, a minority institution, Urdu um, school has been established. Third language, they are asking you to study Kannada. Even they are asking you to study Kannada as a second language. That is not a violation of Article 30 Clause 1. Initially, yes. If you are a minority school in Karnataka, you don't need to learn Kannada. That was the law. But they changed that in 1998. They said that just because you learn Urdu, you establish a school to teach Urdu, you protect Urdu language. But how can, if you teach Kannada along with Urdu, how is the right of Urdu speakers affected? That's what the judgment here was. I'm an Anglo-Indian. I want to teach my children English and my Anglo-Indian culture. In Bangalore, there were a lot of Anglo-Indians. So what if your children learn Kannada? How does that stop them from learning your own culture? This is what the court said. But at the same time, compulsorily teaching. I am an Anglo-Indian school, I am an Urdu school, I am a Tamil school. I am a minority in the state of Karnataka. I have established so that my kids can learn Tamil, Malayalam, Urdu, whatever. And now you are forcing me to teach my children in Kannada medium. That is not allowed. Teaching Kannada as a language and teaching maths and science in Kannada is different. Kannada, you will learn it merely as a language. You will learn everything in Kannada medium. You will learn everything. All the subjects will be taught in Kannada language. That is wrong. I am trying to protect my Tamil language in the state of Karnataka. I am trying to protect my Malayalam language in the state of Karnataka. I am trying to protect my Kannada language in the state of Kerala. So you cannot force me to teach in the state language all the subjects. But at the same time, if I force you, if I am forced to teach Kannada as one subject, that is allowed. Forcing me to teach Kannada and all the subjects in Kannada medium, that is not allowed. That's a violation of Article 30. That's what the court said. What does Article 30 Clause 1 Clause A say? 31A. What does that say? It says that you can seize the property of a cultural and linguistic and religious minority. You can seize the property of a minority, but at the same time, you have to make sure that the compensation given to them does not affect their rights. So I'm a minority school. You seize my school. The school and the land on which the school is there, the benches, the tables, the salary of the teacher, everything put together, it's about 2 crores. You give me 20 lakhs. With that 20 lakhs, I cannot even go and establish another school. So not only is this school gone, not only is this college gone, I cannot even establish another one with the money that you're giving me. So I cannot exercise my fundamental right. So no action will be taken. No seizing will be done in a manner that affects my right to enjoy my fundamental rights. So you cannot affect my fundamental rights in such a manner, you cannot seize my property in such a manner that my fundamental rights are affected. So if you seize my property, yes, you have a right to seize my property, but give me the correct market value so that I can go and start another school. Give me enough money, give me another property so that I can start my school. What does Article 30 Clause 2 say? Article 30 Clause 2 says that when grants are given out, you will not discriminate against minority. There's a Tamil minority school, there's a Muslim minority school, there is a Christian minority school. You cannot say that I will give money to Tamils and I will give money to Muslims, but I will not give money to Christians. You cannot say that. But at the same time, same, the three schools are there. The Tamil minority school is also trying to educate the poor people in the society. The Muslim minority school is applying SC/ST reservation to it. That is why I give them grants. The Christian minority school is not following any other law. It is their right. They have a right not to follow any of this. So the Muslim minority school is having RTE. Tamil minority is implementing SC/ST reservation, whatever. That is why I give them grants. I don't give the Christian school grants. See, there is a sound legal backing for it. So the Christian school does not have a right. They cannot say there are three minority schools in my area, two have gotten, I also have a right. No, you don't have a right to receive grant. You have a right to be treated equally. You cannot be discriminated on the basis of religion, but you can be classified on the basis of the work that you're doing. You as a school are not doing anything else. You're not implementing any law. That is a right you have. You have the right not to follow reservation laws. You have the right not to teach people. You have the right not to teach languages so that your own culture is protected. All that right you have. But there are other minority schools who are protecting their culture by following other laws. Optional. Whether you want to follow that law is optional, and yet they are following the law. So they will be given some benefit because some resource they are facing resource crunch. We will give that to them. You don't have a right to claim an aid. You cannot have a right to ask for money from the government. But when the government is giving out money, you have the genuine right to believe that I will be treated equally. That's what Article 30 Clause 2 says. With this, my dear students, we have come to the end of the right to culture and right to education. Right to education under Article 21 Clause A, 21 capital A, is of course a self-reading topic. The material has been provided to you. Please go through that, and we will have a section on clarifying doubts very soon. Thank you. Stay safe.